Now we're having a conversation with Niren Chaudhary, who's the CEO of Panera Bread. I want to have him join us now. Niren, for people, again, watching overseas who have not had the pleasure of having one of your paninis in their stores, tell us a brief sketch. What is Panera, the scale of Panera, where it reaches, how many places that you have?
So Panera Bread has 2,200 cafes across the country. Average unit volumes of close to $3 million per cafe. We employ about 140,000 people. Total system sales of $6 billion. But I think what's unique about Panera is that our mission is quite simple. We want to make sure that good food is accessible to everybody. And by good food, we mean food that tastes great, but is also good for you. So we have some core values that define our food. So it's food that's free from all kinds of artificial ingredients. The animal proteins are from animals raised in a responsible way. And most importantly, at Panera, we believe that we will serve food that we will serve to our own children. So we have a pretty high filter in terms of serving food that's both good and good for you. So it's in the form of sandwiches and salads and soups in terms of what we offer. But I think it's an incredible brand.
One of the things that Claire mentioned that was interesting is the number of children that are being affected by this. How is your company trying to just deal with that? I mean, there are, I'm sure, tons of your customers that used to show up at your store, and whether it was kind of the last minute dinner that they wanted to grab, this was feeding their kids. And a lot of kids, especially from impoverished neighborhoods, are used to going to school to get that staple meal, that diet. So what's Panera working on?
You know, I already think that this health crisis is becoming a significant humanitarian crisis. And I think at times like this, brands like ours must step up and do the right thing the right way. So I think especially at a time like this, and especially with people who are impacted the most by the pandemic, and I think there are three sets of people who are impacted. Doctors and nurses, and they're out there every single day fighting for all of us. So we serve about 50,000 meals to doctors and nurses every week in New York. Second is children, like you mentioned. Children don't have access to freshly prepared, wholesome meals at a time like this. So we recently announced a partnership with the USDA and the Children Hunger Alliance to serve nutritious, wholesome, freshly prepared meals to children in the state of Ohio and then beyond. And then the third category is families. Families, like Claire was saying, are deeply impacted. In fact, as she mentioned, it's a staggering stat that 55 million Americans are going to suffer from hunger. I think also I've read that 20% of the food banks are going to run out of food. And that's just unacceptable. So to that end, we are actually partnering with Feeding America. And we've launched a campaign called Together Without Hunger, saying that let's come together and fight and attack hunger. So we have pledged that we will serve up to 500,000 meals to children and families impacted by the pandemic. And to drive awareness and to drive donation, we've created a challenge. You have it on the screen. It's called See a Plate, Fill a Plate. So you go firstly and donate at least $3 to togetherwithouthunger.org. Then you take an empty plate, decorate that, and symbolically fill that with hope and optimism. Take a selfie, tag 5 friends, and post it. And I think through that, we're hoping to create this momentum. And the more we'll raise, the more children and families we can feed at this difficult time.
Unmute. Okay, there we go. I know you've been in the industry for a long time, 25 years at least, and we have not had a crisis like this. But one of the things people are wondering is what happens to the food service industry, the restaurant industry. You're an enormous company with hundreds of thousands of employees, but what about the mom and pop that's got a small diner somewhere on Main Street, so to speak? They probably don't have a couple of months worth of pad where they can go without customers, and they're still running the risk of their employees? What happens in the big picture?
I think as you look ahead, the world as we know it is going to change dramatically, at least for the near term. And I do think that the recovery is going to be somewhat slow. So I think, firstly, I think the financial crisis is going to deepen, and that's going to impact, unfortunately, many businesses. Um, However, even in that environment, there will be opportunities for restaurant companies, opportunities such as on real estate, opportunities on talent. Competition undoubtedly will consolidate. I think brands that are truly differentiated, I believe, will still find a way to survive, but it's going to be hard. But there'll be new entrants, new competition. So, for example, at-home consumption is going to be increasingly important. Therefore, even for a brand like ours, I think grocery players, meal kit providers will become competitors for the share of wallet for customers for at-home consumption. So the whole dynamics are going to change at a macro level, at a category level, a competitive level. But most importantly, I think the consumers are going to change. And this is what I think the consumers are going to look for. First and foremost, the consumers are going to look for safety. I think they want to be assured that they can still be safe. So that's most important. I think second, they will also look for off-premise convenience. So curbside pickup, drive-throughs, delivery, and that type of stuff is going to be even more important. I think because of the onset of recession, potentially, value is going to be very, very important for the next several months. And lastly, and most importantly, I think customers are also going to start caring about not only the food in terms of taste, but also the quality of the food that they put in their bodies. So I think wellness will become also a big concern.
Yeah.
And I think, fortunately, a brand like Panera, I think, is well positioned if we do the right things, because we have a brand that stands for wellness, but also we have a very good off-premise infrastructure and a strong e-commerce platform.
All right, Niren Chaudhary, CEO of Panera Bread. Hopefully when this is all over, I can catch up with you in person in one of your cafes. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for all the work.